All right. We will kick off. Thank you, everyone, for joining. We're honored that you would spend the middle of your day with you. Know that everyone is extremely busy, but we are honored that you take the time to connect with us. We're very excited to walk through some exciting innovations that are available within AMC, automations with AI. My name is Brett Bardsley. I lead the advertising team here at Pattern, and I am joined with my colleagues. They'll each introduce themselves as we get to their respective sessions. How we're going to break up the session today is we will be focused on really a crawl, walk, run approach. So regardless of the sophistication of your organization with automations, AI, AMC, we want to be able to give every single one of you some tactical kind of checklists, things to do to be able to advance, whether you're starting at crawl, if you're already walk or you're running, things that you can kick off to improve your organization's advertising. And so we will organize it that way. At the end of each session, we will pause to answer any questions that you may have. So as a reminder, if you do have any questions, please post them in the Q&A dropdown, and then each of the team members will answer those at the end of each session. So again, thank you for joining. The first thing that we wanted to hit before going into each of the development and innovation areas is to really remind us that we need to know what we want to know. As we jump into AMC, it is a sea of information, so much data to get into. It can be very exciting, and quite frankly, you can lose a good amount of time because there's so much opportunity there. What we remind everyone is before getting into that, before jumping into all of the shiny toys, take a step back and ask yourself, what are the most important things that your organization needs to learn? And that will then guide how you use each of these tools and really focusing your time in the right way. Otherwise, you will go through days, months, years, grasping at all the low-hanging fruit, but not really getting to the answers that you truly need for your organization. So with that, I'm going to pass the baton over to Katie Brown, who will walk us through the early steps that you need to dive into these innovations. Katie.
Awesome. Thanks, Brett. For everyone on the call, I'm Katie Brown, Director of Advertising here at Pattern. Been at Pattern for 3.5 years and in the broader digital marketing space before that. Like Brett said, it's important to know what you're looking to do with AMC. 50% of you on the call today are probably already AMC wizards. So just stick with me through this basic section to get to walk and run. But for the other 50% who haven't yet tapped into AMC, I want to give you a step-by-step walkthrough to get you confident enough to start clicking around and capturing some insights. AMC can be pretty intimidating. In preparation for this webinar, I watched some other webinars, some other trainings, and if you're less technical, a lot of those walkthroughs can be really overwhelming. They're talking about signals and SQL and queries, and it's a lot of in-depth language that can be pretty intimidating. So I want to show you the self-service version of AMC. Requires no technical skills, no additional resources or hires on your team. That gets you on the path to more of those wizard level abilities. So at Pattern, we believe that AMC, if you'll go back, right? Yeah. All good. We believe AMC is the most underutilized reporting center based on the value that is provided there. So advertisers on the platform have to get familiar with it to keep their ad strategies competitive and driving long-term growth. So beyond all of that technical jargon, the simple definition of AMC is it's a reporting center that allows you to create measurable impact for your business and deeper cuts of data than what you can find in the sponsored ads reporting today. Tangible insights we're capturing at Pattern here include deeper understanding of our audiences. We're able to quantify the impact of a full funnel investment, which historically has been pretty hard. You have to layer in DSP and sponsored ad and kind of estimate, last touch attribution, what's happening between all of these ad types. We're able to do this a lot better through AMC. And we're also able to understand the impact of each ad type. So we'll walk through some of those reports, but those are some of the actual takeaways that we're implementing through AMC. The last 90 days, we've run almost 5,000 queries through AMC. So I'd say we're a super user. And each of those queries is giving us insights that we're pivoting off of. If you're here for the crawl section, you probably need help getting into AMC. So without taking too much time, I just want to quickly walk you through the steps to access it. And so AMC is set up through an instance that connects your ad console and your selling account to AMC. To set this up, you do have to connect with your Amazon account manager. And there's 3 different requirements for setup. So you have to have an executed Amazon DSP agreement. So you need to be running DSP ads. You have to have run campaigns the last 28 days. So if you're fresh to Amazon advertising, you need to have some spend and some results flowing through the consoles. And you need to have your DSP advertiser IDs and sponsored ad IDs ready to go. Once all of that is enabled, you're set up. You can click into AMC through the ad console. So I have the ribbon here on the right. It's under the measurement and reporting section, and it just says Amazon Marketing Cloud. Jumping to the next slide. Once you're in, the easiest non-technical way to capture insights is from template analytics. So I have that highlighted here. It's in the top ribbon. No SQL skills required, no technical resources. It's pretty simple, pretty comparable to sponsored ad reporting. There's just an additional step. I also wanted to call out here, there's a new section called solutions. This is pretty cool. It'll give you a high value audience that you can run DSP on. So we're going to zoom in on template analytics, but just another thing that you can check out that's pretty plug and play. So zooming in on template analytics, there are a total of 11 easy to pull reports here. I wanted to zoom in on the top few that I think provide the most value to users. So you can see the overlap by campaign groups. So this is pretty interesting, structuring your campaigns by playbook or place in the funnel. You can see if your DSP consideration is then trickling into sponsor brand defense or branded terms. And so you can start to identify, is my DSP resulting in more branded searches? And then I'm capturing those through sponsor product or sponsor brand. And so that helps you decide where to pivot spend to help capture those conversions. Next, sponsored ads and DSP overlap. This will help you understand kind of similarly, but based on the ad types, how am I capturing conversion? So then you can structure your ad budgets around the optimal ad types. There's also reach and impression frequency. This one is great to understand how many times people are seeing your ad. Sometimes we can fatigue our audiences, and sometimes we don't show them our ad enough and you lose them in their path to conversion. We like to use this to create really granular frequency caps in the DSP. New to brand gateway ASINs. I'm going to walk through this one a little bit more in depth on the next slide, but this one is really insightful. It will give you by ASIN the percentage of customers that are new to brand. And so here you can pivot if you're looking to increase incremental or top line, but maybe there's some products you haven't been spending on that actually are driving a significant number of new to brand purchases. This is a quick pivot you can make to impact top line. There's audience overlap analysis. With this one, you're able to see within the DSP, I'm targeting these particular audiences, but maybe there's audiences nearby those that you could expand your targeting to and increase reach. So this is another one, a quick insight you can then go into your console and make a pivot on. We also like time to conversion. A brand we have at Pattern is a luxury luggage brand. And so they have a significantly longer time to conversion. But with this data, we're able to understand that and build out the right DSP orders to make sure that we're still hitting those customers, even though it might be past the traditional window of attribution. So in this next section, I want to walk you through pulling the new to brand gateway ASINs. Again, it's pretty simple. So you're in that template analytics section, and there's a few inputs that you're going to have to put in. So you just name your report, select your date range, and then you're going to input campaign IDs. So this is a place where you do have to run a query. So you're going to hit that link that I have circled here. And then on the next slide, I'll show you what that requires. You'll take your list of ASINs that you want to analyze, and then you'll select the ad types you want to look at. So let's say for this one, we're not running sponsored display. I want to look at products, brands, and DSP. So I will hit run on this, and it's going to output a query that you'll then hit run on that query, and then copy and paste the campaign IDs and put back into that previous screenshot. And then that's going to spit out some data for each product, which I have on the next slide. And so this is an example report from Amazon, but you can see here it shows me each ASIN, all of the users who have purchased, so the total purchasers for each of those, the new to brand users, and the new to brand percentage. So the way that we would look at this report is, okay, ASIN 1, 2, 3, 4 is my number one, bringing in the most new to brand customers. I want to make sure that my ad budget is focused there. But it actually looks like ASIN 2, 3, 4, 5 has a higher new to brand percentage than the others. And so this might be somewhere that strategically we could invest more spend in to see more top line impact. So this is one I'd recommend if you're just new to the AMC console. These are immediate pivots you could go and make today, investing more in these ASINs that are driving higher new to brand percentages. With that, that is the crawl section. If there's any questions, happy to answer those. And then we'll punt to Chandler for the walk.
Fantastic. If there's no questions, I'll go ahead and jump in here. Chandler Price. I'm the other director of advertising here at Pattern. Been with Pattern about 5 years now. Before that, worked in the agency space, primarily focused on digital marketing, paid media. So jumping,
maybe on behalf of the brands, in case they are wanting to ask but are intimidated to do so, maybe a quick question to Katie, and then maybe a segue to the walk. What if, Katie, I'm a brand, I don't have additional resources to dive into AMC. I'm already spread pretty thin. Can you talk a little bit about what's truly the value? Is it worth spending the time to go through these? Obviously, the template analytics helps lower the barrier to entry, but yeah, is the juice worth the squeeze?
Yeah, I think these insights aren't something you need to be checking daily, maybe even weekly. But as you look at monthly performance for your brand, and if there are places that you feel there are gaps or you haven't hit your goal, these insights can help you understand where to pivot in the next month. And so I recommend, if it's not something you're able to have an entire team looking at, once a month or once a quarter as you're evaluating strategy and priorities, the insights can help you make sure you're making the right pivots to hit the next quarter's goals.
And Chandler, as we move to the walk phase, when do you know it's the right time to switch? Like perhaps you're using a number of these template analytics, these reports, you're diving into them like Katie suggested, weekly or sometimes even daily. When do you know it's the time to move to the next kind of phase, to the walk phase?
Yeah, I think Amazon Marketing Cloud at its core, and the way that we look at it is it's really a platform for garnering insights. And so I would say it's heavily dependent on your business needs. You know, where do you feel like gaps are today? How do you address those? And so I think template analytics is a great starting point. Katie walked through, there's around 11 templates that you can use today. Very easy to jump in, run those without any technical expertise. There's 80 plus instructional queries if you are somewhat dangerous with SQL. Before you get to that point, you can go through and browse some of those and see, you know, what are the needs that I have as a business right now, and what questions am I trying to answer? And I would say that's when you know it's time to move to that next step, is these questions that I have are not being answered within template analytics. Fantastic. So maybe jumping in here, talking about resourcing. We talked about high level, how we view Amazon Marketing Cloud, the data that it provides, really garnering insights in the right way. Really, Amazon Marketing Cloud allows us to run queries and tailor those to specific needs that we have as a business. And so it's a large data pool that we can access and pull insight out of. A lot of times, those are going to be custom queries or specific needs that we're trying to address for the business through our marketing campaigns. How do we optimize in the right way? Really, the core and the building block of that is having a background in SQL. So starting with instructional queries, which are provided by Amazon, essentially the building blocks for how do you access the data. It's a template that you can copy and paste. You can start with those and run those. There are some things that you need to edit. So in order to do that, you can learn SQL. We've seen fantastic use of just LinkedIn Learning here at Pattern. SQL programming is one that we would recommend if you're a marketing or advertising professional looking to get a little bit deeper. Really, you just need enough to be dangerous and know the queries that you're looking at. You don't have to be able to start from scratch in a lot of cases. Option 2 is if you want to get a little bit deeper, start to build out those custom queries, you can hire a marketing analytics team, which is something that we've done in the last year or so here at Pattern. And Ryan will walk us through here in the near future how we can look at things a bit deeper once we have a team like that in place. So jumping into instructional queries, as I mentioned, there's over 80 that you can look at. It can be overwhelming to get into right at the beginning. Katie walked through a few through templated analytics. We'd recommend starting with a few that are actually in templated analytics as well. Time to conversion is one that we see is very, very important. How long does it take to convert a customer once they view an ad for the first time? One of the things that we love about the instructional queries is we can edit those to our specific needs. On sponsored ads, oftentimes we see it's more important to look at clicks being the first touch rather than impression. As most sponsored ads are click-based, we can make that quick pivot within the query to give us deeper insight there. Path to conversion is one that we see a lot of use in as well. Really by understanding what's the most popular path between the different campaign types that you have. So looking at sponsored product ads, sponsored brands, DSP, all the ad types under the sun, what does that path look like for your consumer? It can be a little bit deceiving at times, having last click attribution really being your source of truth. And so how do you layer that in the right way? One of the things that we see here is through template analytics and the default, other conversions can be looped in that aren't necessarily unit conversions. And so if you filter out purchases that are less than 0 and only look at purchases with conversion, you can get a better apples to apples of how your business is really performing. Impression frequency and conversion. Katie covered this one of how do you target the people the right amount? How do you put frequency caps in place on DSP? Through instructional queries, you can add in additional metrics that can be very insightful around units sold, product sales, add to carts, and so on. New to brand data, we see a lot of use here, specifically on the sponsored product side. The ad console today, so the normal ad portal that you log in through does not show new customer data for sponsored products. And so you can pull that data through Amazon Marketing Cloud and get deeper within the segmentation of campaigns or ad groups within the instructional queries. And then custom attribution model. So this is one that we use fairly often. It's not available through templated analytics. We talked about a little bit higher up on this slide, the path to conversion, but how do you weight those things differently? By default, we look at first click. Should we weight the middle heavier? Should we look at last click? Should we build out a custom attribution model based on what we're seeing brand by brand that we work with? So a lot of great insight can come from that. And then maybe shifting gears here a little bit. Obviously, instructional queries and the ability to query Amazon Marketing Cloud is incredibly insightful in garnering insights, understanding your business at a deeper level. But one of the things that we've found helpful is how do you action on that in real time? And one of the ways to do that is building out audiences that you can use through DSP. So listing out a few audiences that we use here on a fairly regular basis for the brands that we work with. The first two are going to be around customers, one on new customers and one on customers as a whole. So you can build out new and repeat audiences through AMC, targeting specifically price range, average order value. If we want to target people that drive a high average order value, have a strong brand loyalty, we can create audiences around that. There is the additional requirement there that you do need a subscription to flexible shopping insights. The cost of that can be provided by your Amazon ad contact. A few other audiences that we use is add to carts but did not purchase. Obviously see very, very strong conversion rates here. There's not a lot of capabilities within Amazon advertising today where you can target people that are abandoning shopping carts. And so this is something that we use very broadly across the board. And then shoppers that are viewing multiple detail pages. So as a default through Amazon DSP, you can create an audience for somebody that viewed a product page but didn't purchase. We'll bring them back through retargeting ads. You can actually take that a step further through Amazon Marketing Cloud and say, I want people that have viewed a page 2 or more times or 3 or more times, and really get deep on the level of data and the targeting that we have. I think that the most exciting thing here, especially when we layer in the new customers or the repeat customers that have a very strong brand loyalty, average order value, you can create lookalike audiences based on the audiences that you create. So those seed audiences that we talked above, you can create an audience based on the data that you have. And then based on those seed audiences, you can create a lookalike. So anybody that looks like somebody that has strong brand loyalty with a high average order value, and go after those people specifically. So high level through the insights and audiences, that's how we would recommend kind of the walk, the next step here, getting deeper into AMC.
You just talked a lot about AMC audiences. How do those differ, Chandler, from custom built audience and DSP?
Yeah, custom built audiences on DSP are going to be very specific based on a lot of times shopping behavior. So if they're looking at detail pages, not purchasing, they are purchasing, they're looking at a brand store. I would think about AMC being more specific to the actual groups of users that are purchasing. It's deeper level insight into what those customers are really doing and what they're interacting with. And then you can segment those audiences further. And so I would say the DSP custom built audiences within platform or the umbrella that captures a lot of the things. This just helps you get deeper insight and more granular targeting.
And it feels that those audiences are useful and a great reference point for the team that's managing the broader marketing spend and strategies. It's a fantastic reference point and proof point for the personas and audiences that they've developed. Thanks.
Absolutely.
Maybe one last question, Chandler. You shared a lot of great options here, and fortunately this is recorded so the audience can go back and reference this later on. But if you're just starting out, let's say you just moved through the walk, the crawl phase, you're getting into the walk, what are the first few that you'd suggest diving in first?
Yeah, I know when I first got access to Amazon Marketing Cloud, the number one most important thing to me was new to brand customers through sponsored product ads. And then going deeper outside of template and analytics into the segmentation there. I think that's a fantastic starting point for really understanding your business and the customers that you are driving.
Perfect. Thank you, Chandler. So from a crawl standpoint, really no recommendation for incremental headcount. With those templated reports, feels like that can be managed with your existing team. As you move to the crawl, that's where perhaps not an incremental hire, but some training is required to get into SQL and know how to query correctly. As we move into the run phase, feels like that's the time to really start looking at additional resourcing. Would you agree, Ryan?
Definitely. And we'll get more into that in the next few slides of why you really will need to have that incremental headcount because of the workload that can come with everything that is included in Run.
Perfect. Christine wins the award for the first question, so appreciate that, Christine. She asked, if you're a brand that doesn't actually sell direct, but still runs ad campaigns on Amazon, are these granular ASIN reports still available to you?
Yes.
Jeff, you want to cover that one for Walk?
Yeah, I think Ryan was chiming in there. Yes, you can access a lot of the reporting through Amazon Marketing Cloud. feel free to jump in here as well, Ryan. Amazon's really building a system that is a large clean room, not just Amazon data. I think one of the things that we're not specifically covering right now is you can port in additional data, but you can access greater data than just Amazon or tap into Amazon Marketing Cloud if you're not selling on Amazon.
Perfect. Thank you, Chandler. Hope that answers your question, Christine, and thanks for speaking up and asking. All right, take us away, Ryan. Run.
Sweet. I'm Ryan Stagel. I'm our Associate Director of Analytics and Insights. This team is very young, and Amazon Marketing Cloud in general is very young. And this is one of the many pieces that we've leaned into as heavily as possible. Like Katie mentioned, we've done over 4,000 queries within the last 90 days, but we've been running on Amazon Marketing Cloud for over 2 years now, thanks to Chandler and a few others on the team as well, getting that set up. Yeah, let's go into it. This is really where, if you want to reach your full potential with Amazon Marketing Cloud, having that additional support really is required. Obviously, the recommendation of having a marketing analytics team, or at least one individual marketing analytics member, is worth going into, and especially with those initial analytics with templates and those instructional queries, very much helps with that. And then as you are really wanting to scale this, a data engineer and a data scientist, depending on the path you're wanting to go to and which of these future analyses you'll see you want to be pulling, here's like the initial skills needed with each of those required and why you'll ultimately need that. You'll really get into Python. You'll really get into AWS. S3 buckets are a must if you're trying to get into this and scale. At least a basic understanding of Amazon ads, and then getting into QuickSight and Amazon Athena. That's another big one. And then SageMaker even, which gets into Amazon's version of machine learning. That really is helpful to have someone manage and run through those machine learning workflows as well. On the educational courses side, you really can go through these AMC foundations, AMC certification, and those two are mainly for that crawl and walk section. Once you start to get into AMC rule-based audiences, that's maybe the blended between crawling and running, but the AMC developer is very in-depth. It goes into your S3 buckets, it goes into APIs and why you need certain thresholds of data and how to send data back and forth between your data sets and what you have in Amazon as well. Looking initially at APIs and playbooks, starting off with APIs, that's where things mainly begin with this running section. At least to have these APIs initially started, you need an AMC instance, of course. You'll need a login with an Amazon account through Amazon Ads API, and you'll initially need that S3 bucket to get things started. That really helps you just get everything going. This is a query-based API, so it's not your average API, which you generally would want someone who at least has some experience when getting into this, because query-based APIs are a little bit more finicky, and this is all ultimately to protect customer information. So everything is done at an aggregation threshold, and you really need someone who's at least done something with APIs in the past rather than starting out of nowhere. A lot of what you can get from AMC will help fuel your AI. Even Amazon has a few different things for generative AI, like Amazon Bedrock. There's developer type of information for Code Whisperer that can lead to that Bedrock information as well. These are all apps and tools within Amazon's wheelhouse, and there are quite a few others that I won't bore you with that you can look into and that help, again, fuel that AI. And all of this data that you can get from AMC, you generally will get through an API that will ultimately fuel whichever information or data you're trying to predict or prescribe through artificial intelligence. Along with that, we have AMC playbooks. This is a step-by-step model, this is basically, hopefully this isn't too confusing, the crawl section of the run section, where if you're just getting started with running, you can they walk you through multi-touch attribution, they walk you through customer journey analytics, customer lifetime value, and audience programmatic framework. And it really does go step by step of this is what's needed in order to get this playbook to its full potential, and walks you through each individual step in depth of what's needed to get the output for each of these. So like Chandler mentioned, there's multi-touch attribution, and then with this AMC playbook, you can really scale it with what you can do in the APIs and other sections mentioned in that developer guide. Whether you want to do linear, multi-touch, final touch, last touch, like is the general, or a custom attribution model, all those are within that multi-touch attribution developer guide. As far as customer journey analytics go, that is basically the path to conversion, like we mentioned earlier, but again, scaled and even pulled live. You can get a lot of information and data within 24 hours of setting that up and showing that consistently over time in your reporting. With customer lifetime value, we helped Amazon a lot with this one in setting up this playbook. This leads into that machine learning, predictive modeling, and AI with what you're wanting and whatever you're wanting to do with customer lifetime value, but being able to identify the actual value that's coming from each customer and at each part of the funnel, you can use this playbook to identify that piece of it along with your customer acquisition cost that goes with each of those within LTV. And then programmatic framework of audiences is probably the most complicated out of all of them. Again, it's like that audience section that Chandler spoke to, but just further and scaled along down the road. So if you are trying to do this at a massive scale, audience programmatic framework allows you to do that. And again, this goes through each of the steps needed to reach each of those audience like Chandler mentioned before.
So Ryan, if you're moving into the run phase, once you've secured the right resourcing and support on your team for people that can dive into this, you have pulled the data via APIs and got that set up. Your recommendation is AMC Playbooks is the first thing that you need to look into.
Definitely. Yeah,
Okay.
that'll get a good view of everything that it's capable of. And then by doing those, you'll be able to identify what are the next use cases that you would want to see for your business.
Perfect. Yeah, at Pattern, we manage hundreds of brands, and I can't think of one that would not be interested in multi-touch attribution, customer journey, customer lifetime value. That's very, very important analyses to improve your business and overall advertising strategy. Quick pause. There was a question that we received about DSP. We've referenced DSP a number of times. Just want to make sure that everyone understands what that is. Katie, I know that you covered that in the crawl phase. Do you mind just quickly defining what DSP is?
Yeah, so DSP stands for Demand Side Platform. It's Amazon's programmatic advertising console. Programmatic advertising is audience-based display targeting and advertising. And so that's somewhere where you can go in and target people who have viewed your products in a certain time period and show them the product again. You can target people who have purchased the product before. You can target people based on lifestyle, shopping behaviors like was referenced. So it goes beyond just keyword targeting in the ads console and more into who is the specific audience. But again, with the AMC audiences we've talked about here, you can layer those into DSP and make it much more powerful.
So as the sophistication opens up on targeting, obviously that's where AMC and pulling in this data becomes even more important, because then it gives you the insight to know who to target and how.
Yep, exactly.
Thank you, Katie. Ryan, hopefully that answers the question for whoever that posted that. Ryan, if you want to continue there.
Yeah. This is where you get into even more custom audiences and scaling those custom audiences. And you get even more granular with ASIN-based audiences, which become more interesting. I know we mentioned gateway ASINs and basically your loyalty ASINs, but then you can get into specifically Prime Day, which ASINs are doing best on Prime Day, scaling that across multiple brands and partners if you work with those. And then additional looking at new products, strategic ASINs, high margin. You can layer all of that in because you can combine your data with the data that is available through Amazon Marketing Cloud. From the rule-based and lookalike audience side of any of these, you can initially create these audiences and target those with those of bulk purchasers, those who have purchased more than 2+, 3+ units. You can define that within your query that you're sending through the API, and then scaling that as you go over time, because you can actually refresh these audiences so that they're consistently up to date and say, hey, I want to always look at that at the last 30 days, the last 90 days, whatever that is, where it's consistently updating over time. And that's true for any one of these. So if you're wanting to always see your frequent buyers, if you want to cut it off at a certain point, let's say a year, you want to say, I only want to look at my subscribe and save customers of this year, or I don't want to look at my subscribe and save customers of this year. You can layer that in on top of making sure that's always a recurring audience that's refreshed whenever, for whatever time period you want it to be refreshed for. Looking at other pieces of this, with that Amazon demand side platform, these are all placed within Amazon DSP and run through Amazon DSP. And you can add them, negate them, and create those for those specific audiences and combine them even with in-market lifestyle, remarketing, repurchase audiences that are honestly very helpful from what we've seen from our experience. Looking at probably the cream of the crop of what you can do with these scaled analytics is uploading D2C information or marketplace order data, even brick and mortar order data to identify shared insights. We provided an anonymized shared example of data we've collected through a clean room and showing, hey, these are how many customers are purchasing on Amazon only and how many are purchasing only on D2C. And then looking at that combined shared audience for a specific time period. When looking at this one, for example, this was for 6 months specifically of how frequently customers were moving between one platform to the other, which was surprisingly low considering the type of audience we were looking at. So very interesting insights that you can get into by better understanding how your customers react and basically understanding that by going through Amazon, you have a lot of net new customers that you probably wouldn't get otherwise. And that's one of the main insights we were able to identify when running through this clean room example. Other things that come from what this clean room is, this is like the clean room within the clean room, where you can upload your D2C data. And with that, you are able to obtain a match rate to basically say, of my 100% of customers that are on my D2C, only 80% are actually purchasing and have accounts on Amazon. The average match rate we've seen between D2C and Amazon so far is around that 80% mark. So again, very interesting insights that can very much lead to further decisions and how you place D2C customers and Amazon customers and understand better the relationship between the two. One of the most fascinating things about this is we can create audiences based off of each of these groups. So let's say we have Amazon customers and we want to target only those Amazon customers, but exclude our D2C customers. We can do that through Amazon DSP, and that comes from creating that out of our clean room that we've created.
We find that this delights our brand partners because not only can you optimize for those Amazon only audiences and make sure that you're as efficient as possible there, but you can also leverage this data in this clean room solution to optimize your off-platform like D2C efforts. And it positions those that are managing this relationship as very beneficial to the broader organization and not to the marketplace only. Got a question from Amanda. Thanks for the question, Amanda. She asked, can you build LAL audiences based on the clean room match?
Yeah, the short answer is yes, as long as you have The minimum requirement is 2,000 unique customers coming through this, but we would recommend at least 2,500 because sometimes it doesn't always go through that process. It'll negate them, or it won't actually create that lookalike audience unless there are about 2,500 unique customers, even though on Amazon side they say 2,000.
But that answers your question, and let us know if not, but thank you for it. Maybe two questions from my side as we give the audience some time to ask, and not just reacting to run, but perhaps to any phase of the development. Can you share, pull back the curtain a little bit, what some exciting things you're doing on the pattern side with your analytics team, Ryan, to leverage AMC and these innovations?
Yeah, a lot of the most interesting insights we've seen recently are with Subscribe and Save. Amazon released that data basically in March, and we've been working tirelessly to show all the normal data that you wouldn't be able to see through Seller Central that's usually masked because of data privacy laws that they're able to give you within AMC, and really diving into, there are Subscribe and Save instructional queries, but that's one that we've been tinkering with and customizing that query to get specific data and insights behind the scenes. That's a really exciting one.
Great. We've got a question from Simon. Can you only add marketplace data in the clean room? What about brick and mortar data? Great question.
Yeah. You can add any place where someone's purchasing. So it can be brick and mortar data, and we can, again, match that to the customers on Amazon. As long as they have even just one of the PII dimensions, like a list of emails, a list of first name, last name, a list of even addresses, it'll try and match as much as it possibly can. The more data you have to pass along, the better. But again, once that data gets through Amazon system in the clean room, it's hashed and privatized, and you can get that type of data. For brick and mortar, that's even true for traffic data if you have that available on Google or other marketplaces as well, and paid channels.
Ryan, great question, Simon. Yeah, I think it goes back to that first question, which is what do you want to know? And that will guide what kind of data to throw into the clean room. We have one brand that we've supported that is interested in the relationship between their call center and D2C and Amazon. And so we, through pulling in that data, provided some valuable insights. So it's really whatever answer you're trying to solve, you'll pull in that respective data. But I don't know of any limitations on the source of data to bring into clean room and analyze. Am I correct, Ryan?
Yep.
Wonderful. Maybe one last question. What do you see, and maybe this goes to all the panelists here, what do you feel is keeping brands from unlocking their full potential with AMC or any of these developments? Any pitfalls that you would call out or recognize to avoid?
Yeah, I can go ahead and jump in here first. I think one of the things that I see fairly often is just bandwidth. And I think that's why we called out early on in the walk section is resourcing is something to look at when you get deeper into Amazon Marketing Cloud. And if you think about your marketing team balancing, all the different retail channels, different traffic channels, their D2C, it can be really tough to get the depth that you need in Amazon Marketing Cloud in understanding the system. So hopefully template and analytics provides you a starting point. But that said, I think to really get deep into Amazon Marketing Cloud, oftentimes I see resourcing being an issue.
Good call, Chandler. And my only suggestion there is you're saying, well, how do I fight for that incremental headcount or support? To not simply position it as a resource for your Amazon business, but for your total business. As we talked about, as you're able to get extremely granular and useful data on audiences, that's useful for the broader marketing organization. As you build out your path to purchase reports, you're able to really share that and leverage that with your broader strategy team. As you look at leveraging clean rooms and pulling in data from perhaps brick and mortar, perhaps call center, whatever that is, that becomes a useful tool for your entire organization to identify white space for product development, for business strategy. So if that is an issue of being able to get resourcing, would suggest positioning it that way. This is not an Amazon only support. This is a total business resource. Any other thoughts, Katie or Ryan?
Yeah, I think thinking about participants who are maybe in the crawl phase, it can be intimidating, and maybe you're waiting for your agency to develop the resources, and waiting for them to bring it to you. But there are things that you can start looking into that will impact your business. And so I think not being afraid to click in, learn the few pieces. Like Chandler said, eventually it's going to come to a resources conversation to really dive in. But I think it's the intimidation and clicking into it and figuring out how it can impact your brand.
Thanks. Last call, Ryan.
Yeah, my main recommendation to get started and to kind of see what's out there is maybe scrolling through the instructional queries. There are well over 100, I believe, and it can be intimidating. And hopefully this webinar has helped you know what to look for when trying to identify that, and using the filters when looking through those instructional queries to say, hey, do I have something I want to look into for ASIN analyses? Am I looking at spend analyses? Is it something I'm looking for gateway products? And that is all available in that left-hand side when you are looking through filters, and those will pull up the right instructional queries to help you get started.
Amazing. Well, thank you everyone for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure to share what the process is from crawl, walk, run with AMC and these reports. If you do have any questions, please reach out. We're happy to answer those at any time. Thank you, Olivia, for executing. We've obviously recorded this so that you can go back and reference it. But again, thank you for the time. Appreciate it, and have a wonderful day.